Welcome to Mystical Minds. I am your host, Jamie Gerard. Today, I will be reading an article from Danny Martin Gerard. His work can be found at dannygs.fortoday.com or Mystical Minds YouTube channel and podcast, co-owned with myself, Jamie Gerard. The Progress of Evolution. It's amazing how people tend to look at everything that's going wrong in the world and how far we need to go rather than notice the much improved world of today as opposed to only a little while ago. We still complain about the economy, but truth is, poverty has declined significantly. According to a study by Bougignon, Morrison, and World Bank estimates 2002, there has been a significant drop in poverty over the past 2 centuries. According to the research, there was just under 1.1 billion people in the world in 1820, of which over 1 billion people lived in extreme poverty. Today we have over 7 billion inhabitants, and as of 2015, the number of extreme poverty cases decreased to 705 million people. Consider the fact that we have over 7 billion inhabitants in the world today, and we had under 1.1 billion people in 1820. And the number of extreme poverty cases still decreased from 1 billion to 705 million. The number of people living in extreme poverty dropped by 137,000 since 1990. People tend to see the worst in every situation, and I do agree that we must take action to create a better tomorrow. But being pessimistic about the world and the future isn't an accurate description of where we are today as opposed to just a little while ago. Many people say there's much more cruelty in the world, but they don't consider the vast media sources of today. We have the internet, cable television, and hundreds of channels as opposed to the few we had when the television was first created. Not to mention how many news channels we have and what is broadcast on those news channels. We have all sorts of devices we use to check recent updates on the latest news. Not too long ago, we depended mostly on word of mouth, what we are basing our information on when we say the world is worse off than it was. Why do we feel the need to impose fear in order to cause global change? Do we need fear in order to take action to cause global change? If this fear causing you to create a better world and ecosystem, then great. But if this fear is causing you to say the world is deteriorating or ending in just a matter of time, then this is better. You say it's just reality, but is it? Do we have an account of everything that ever happened in history of mankind? Now ask yourself, how much information do we have today on global news as opposed to a few decades ago? How much information are we bombarded with on a daily basis? Of course, after watching what the media is showing on television, I can agree that things do not look so good. I wonder what would happen if there was a news channel dedicated only for success and breakthroughs, success in careers, breakthrough healing and recovery, or people gathering to support global peace. I do agree that the news has these uplifting stories. However, how much do they have of uplifting stories and how much do they have of sobbing stories? I do agree that death is part of life, and so is mourning. But when the news only depicts stories on death and worldwide disasters, it creates fear and a belief that the world is much worse than it actually is. We negate the much more considerable number of uplifting stories that would help us see the world through different lenses. Consider the fact that there are many people who would go out of their way to help others, and that the beautiful things of this world are much more substantial than the chaos that would make the front page. Consider equality and justice today as opposed to the 19th or 20th century. Consider the prejudice among the visible minorities and women in general just a few decades ago. Consider the fact that black men were not allowed playing professional ball, despite them being among the greatest ball players. Consider the integration of the visible minorities in many parts of the world. Consider the fact that women are freely able to vote today as opposed to the 19th century. Consider the slavery abolishment in many countries and the substantial decrease in global war. According to Goldstein and Pinker, 2016, global war has decreased significantly. From 1945 to 2011, the global death rate has declined from 22 per 100,000 to 0.3 per 100,000, primarily due to less conflict. Our rights, laws, and overall lives are constantly improving and evolving. But then we focus only on the prejudice and the mistreatment, which are far fewer than a few decades ago. Then we conclude the world is deteriorating and everything is getting worse. I agree that the world needs to change and that there is still much work to be done to have peace among nations. But this world getting worse? We're so focused on our preconceptions of the world deteriorating that we forget about the improvements and evolution that we so take for granted. We're not perfect, and this world isn't perfect. And unfortunately, we must learn through trial and error. But the most important concept to remember is how far we've come and how much we've grown. Thank you so much, Danny G. That was amazing. These articles are they just resonate with me so much. I would rather not comment on them because I believe that they explain themselves. So I hope everybody enjoys these as much as I do. And like I keep saying, every Monday at 6 p.m., we'll be releasing an article from Danny G. And until next week, I hope you have a beautiful week. And I hope everything you desire comes true. With love. Thank you for listening.